They were America's favorite father and son. One loud, wise-cracking junk dealer. One frustrated son trying to keep him in line. Together, Foxx and Demond Wilson created magic on screen. Sanford Son wasn't just a sitcom, it was a cultural earthquake. But behind the laughter, there were guns on set, tempers flaring, and a young actor who secretly hated the very role that made him famous. Why were they strapped with weapons every day? And why did Demond Wilson despise the show that made him a household name? The truth is darker, sadder, and more complicated than anyone ever imagined. This is the untold story of Foxx and Demond Wilson. A story of fame and downfall, resentment and redemption, friendship and betrayal. A story where comedy covered pain, and laughter masked the sound of lives unraveling. And once you hear what really happened behind the set of Sanford Son, you'll never watch the show the same way again. Demond Wilson was born in Valdosta, Georgia, in 1946, but he grew up in Harlem. Harlem in the 1950s was alive with music, soul, and survival. It was the kind of place that could harden a child early, and Demond saw both beauty and brutality in equal measure. He was raised Catholic, serving as an altar boy, but while other kids dreamed of toys, Demond dreamed of escape. At just 13, he nearly died from an appendix rupture. Lying in a hospital bed, hovering between life and death, he whispered a promise to God. "If you let me live, I'll serve you one day." He survived, but he also carried that vow deep inside him, even when he strayed far away from it. As a teen, he loved performing. He took ballet, he studied dance, he acted in school plays, but he also got caught up in Harlem's rough edges. Drugs, fast living, the streets calling his name. He escaped when he joined the army, serving in Vietnam, where he saw death face to face. The war scarred him, but it also sharpened him. By the time he returned, he was determined to make something of his life. That something turned out to be Hollywood. Foxx's story was different, but just as raw. Born John Elroy Sanford in St. Louis, in 1922, Foxx had been hustling since he was a kid. His father left early, his mother struggled, and by the time he was a teenager, Red was washing dishes, shining shoes, and dreaming of stages instead of kitchens. He hit the road as a stand-up comic, grinding through black nightclubs in the 1940s and 50s. His comedy was raunchy, raw, unfiltered, too dirty for television, too honest for polite company, but exactly what his audiences loved. He was the king of the party records, selling millions of underground comedy albums. But by the early 1970s, the mainstream was finally catching up to what Red had been doing all along. Norman Lear, already a TV king with All in the Family, wanted to create a show around Fox's style. NBC was hesitant. Could a raunchy black comic carry a sitcom? Could America embrace a junk dealer and his exasperated son? The gamble changed television forever. When Sanford Son premiered in January 1972, it was an instant hit. The nation fell in love with Fred Sanford, the cranky junkman with a heart of gold, and his long-suffering son Lamont, who always seemed one scheme away from losing his mind. What most viewers didn't know was that Demond Wilson almost didn't take the part. He was a serious actor, trained in drama, hoping for Broadway or film roles. He didn't want to be typecast as a clownish sidekick. But when NBC put the contract in front of him, the money was life-changing. He signed on, hoping it would just be a stepping stone. Instead, it became his whole career. The chemistry between Red and Demond was undeniable. On screen, they fought like family. Off-screen, the relationship was more complicated. Red was a mentor, but also unpredictable. One day, he'd be generous, showering his cast with gifts. The next he'd storm off set, demanding higher pay. And then there was the fear. Because as Demond later revealed, every single day on set, both he and Foxx were strapped with guns. Why? Because fame was dangerous. The 1970s were not kind to black entertainers. Robberies, extortion, kidnappings, celebrities were targets. And Foxx wasn't just famous. He was flashy, carrying wads of cash, wearing jewelry, and living large. He trusted very few people, and he wasn't about to let anyone take what was his. So behind the laughter, there was always tension. A script in one hand, a pistol tucked in the waistband. What kind of sitcom runs on fear? For Demond Wilson, the pressure was different. To the world, he was Lamont, the dutiful son, but to himself he was trapped. The role he played so well was the role he despised the most. He hated being typecast, hated being seen as nothing more than the son. He wanted dramatic roles, serious films, Broadway recognition. Instead, every audition ended with "Aren't you Lamont from Sanford Son?" It ate at him. And the money wasn't as sweet as fans assumed. While Red Fox fought for higher salaries, Demond's contract left him bitter. He later admitted he felt underpaid and undervalued, even as the show made NBC millions. By 1977, the tension boiled over. Red walked off the show over a salary dispute. Demond, tired and resentful, followed. The laughter stopped. The doors closed. Sanford Son was finished. But what happened next would shock everyone. Red Fox tried to keep the magic alive with spin-offs. Sanford Arms. Sanford. But without the chemistry of Foxx and Wilson, the shows collapsed. Red's career slowed, and the money dried up faster than anyone expected. See, Red lived larger than life. Mansions, cars, jewelry, women, gambling. He made millions and spent millions. By the 1980s, he was bankrupt, owing the IRS over $3 million. The same man who once had Hollywood in his palm, now had government agents repossessing his cars and raiding his house. And Demond Wilson, his collapse came in a different form. After Sanford Son, he dabbled in TV shows, movies, and even writing. But the demons he carried from Harlem, from Vietnam, and from Hollywood caught up with him. He admitted to drug use, affairs, and a lifestyle that nearly destroyed his marriage. It seemed like both men, once kings of comedy, were heading toward ruin. But then came the turning points. For Red Fox, it was a late career revival. In 1986, he landed The Red Fox Show. It failed. But in 1989, Eddie Murphy, who idolized Fox, gave him a role in Harlem Nights, alongside Richard Pryor. Suddenly, Red was back on the big screen, standing tall with legends. But the comeback was short-lived. In 1991, he was cast in The Royal Family, a sitcom that paired him with Della Reese. The pilot episode aired. The future looked bright. Then tragedy struck. On October 11, 1991, during rehearsal, Red Fox collapsed on set, clutching his chest. At first, people thought he was joking. After all, "I'm coming, Elizabeth," had been his signature fake heart attack gag for years. But this time, it was real. Red Fox died of a massive heart attack at 68 years old. The comedy world was shattered. Demond Wilson's turning point came in a quieter, more spiritual way. In 1984, at the height of his personal chaos, he remembered the promise he made to God as a boy. Broken, addicted, and desperate, he fell to his knees and gave his life to ministry. He walked away from Hollywood. No more sitcoms. No more auditions. Instead, he became a preacher, building churches, writing books, and counseling others. He told his story to anyone who would listen. Fame nearly destroyed him, but faith saved him. Fans were shocked. Lamont from Sanford Son had become Reverend Demond Wilson, and while many couldn't understand how he left Hollywood behind, Wilson insisted he had found something greater than fame. Looking back, their legacies couldn't be more different. Red Fox, the pioneer, the man who kicked down doors for black comedians, died broke but beloved, his comedy still influencing generations. Demond Wilson, the reluctant star, found peace not in Hollywood lights, but in church pews, living a quieter but steadier life of service. Together, they created a show that changed television forever. But behind the curtain, one carried guns to survive, and the other carried bitterness that nearly ate him alive. So the next time you laugh at Fred Sanford's fake heart attack, remember that Red Fox's real one took him from us too soon. And the next time you see Lamont roll his eyes at his father's antics, remember that Demond Wilson was dying inside, trapped in a role he never wanted. They made America laugh, but they paid a heavy price. They didn't just act in a sitcom, they lived a tragedy wrapped in comedy. And maybe that's why their story still haunts us today. What part of their journey shocked you the most? The guns on set, Red Fox dying broke, or Demond Wilson walking away from fame to become a preacher? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you thought this story was powerful, wait until you hear what really happened to Richard Pryor when the cameras stopped rolling.